Good afternoon, everybody. It's Derek Fairbairn here from Northern Power Grid. I'm the System Design Manager for the company, and I'm pleased to have everybody down the line today to listen to an update on our SafeDig system, which we launched earlier on this year. Joining me today is Dan Philo, who is our project engineer, heavily involved in delivering this. Unfortunately, Ian Foster, who some of you may have come across in the last 6 to 9 months, who's our Records Information Manager, is on annual leave, so cannot join us today. But hopefully we will be able to run through the presentation and deliver a successful outcome for yourselves today. Format of today's running event is 15 to 20 minutes of presentation, followed by question and answers. Yourselves will be in listening mode today, but you can ask any questions at any point using the question bar on your screen. That will also be a facility we will use later on in terms of some polls that we have and questions, so there will be some live polls so we can understand further information. There will also be, at the end, the questions answered following on, and we will try our best to get through all of those questions in the hour slot that we have. If we haven't got time to answer them all in the hour, then we will certainly pick those up and follow on from that. It is really important to ourselves to ensure that we do get feedback from today's webinar, so please do provide that to the email address you can see on screen at ice@northernpowergrid.com. First one today, in terms of the poll, is in order to help us tailor the content of today's webinar, just so that we can understand who is subscribed. If you can take the next 20 seconds or so when it comes up on the screen to indicate who you are, and then we can use that information. And the second question that we'd like to ask in the poll is, have you used SafeDig to request asset data since April 2019, which is when we launched the new system? Again, I'll give you 20 seconds or so to answer that question, please. Thank you very much. Now into the main presentation and introducing SafeDig. One of the key areas that we've looked to develop is bringing our systems into the 21st century, and historically we've operated across 2 different license areas with a Northeast download records facility and a GIS system in the Yorkshire license area. And as part of our improvement measures, we introduced a single environment for all Northern Power Grid mapping information. The technology we've introduced is compatible with all modern browsers. The idea is that you get individual login and passwords. Again, we are in quite a modern world with cyber security, so it's important that obviously we all protect our IT systems. There is a choice of method for map selection and a standard industry system that likes a PDF, the sponsors for ease of distribution. So we've tried to think about the most simplistic way that you can get SafeDig records, and certainly bringing all of that information together has been a significant task that we were successful in delivering and launching in April of this year. One of the key differences, as you'll see from the slide, was the way that we presented our old records in the Northeast license area. And as I say, we've brought together 2 legacy systems between those 2 and one single easy-to-use system. So gone off the days where you would have a black and white map that you would effectively just sometimes have difficulty reading, and we brought that data up to date so that the clarity that is provided and the detail that you can achieve from that is readily available. So we brought those 2 systems together. One of the key things is getting started And as we have for a number of our services, you access it through our website, and you go through the SafeDig selection, where we have allowed, as I say, to access a number of different services, not just SafeDig, disconnection service also. It's part of our widening media engagement with yourselves, so that it is easier for stakeholders to engage with us on a range of different services that we offer. Once you've registered, there is a welcome page. Hopefully some of you have used the system. It starts to introduce you to the look and feel of the system, and on that welcome page, geographically you'll start to see the license area that we actually cover. There are caveats associated with using our system. Again, the terms and conditions, like when you sign up to a lot of different websites, there are standard terms and conditions associated with using the data and the application that we actually have. Once you tick to confirm that you understand those terms and conditions, you then move on to setting up job details associated with yourself. Normal questions about when will the work be started, further details about when the work will be started, and certainly if you have a number of applications, getting the specific job titles in place so that when these drop into your inbox, then you can easily sort them. We ask for site contact details. It's important that works that are going out and how our records are being used. If there are any queries about when the information was requested, the site contact details, if there is an issue, then we can record those details and ensure that should an event happen, we've got a register of when requests were made for our SafeDig plans. We've then started to bring, as I say, some of the technology into being very easy to use by being able to place postcode or address into a town, into the site, and click on an area, and use modern type tools, which again a lot of people will have seen, the likes of Google Earth and Google Maps, where we do use, I think, common information so that the system itself is as easy to use, both internally and externally. So we've used how we brought our systems up to date when we launched this new SafeDig system. You get to zoom in onto the area where the site location is from the details that you've inputted. Again, we're starting to use OS maps and background data that, as I say, is modern type environment information, which then confirms that first visual that it is the area. You go on to create your site location in and around the polygon type arrangement where you circle the area that you are after, and that then starts to identify the amount of pages of information that our system would provide yourselves. So we want to make sure that what you get from us is exactly what you actually need, so the area, the bespoke area that you're looking to self-serve on. We are aware that from the historical usage of the systems, GIS and the Northeast downloads, that significant areas could be selected. What we've certainly done is we took some initial feedback from the area that we are looking at, and by default you can generally select approximately 2.5 kilometers in length of geographical area by approximately 150 meters wide. So when we talk about the provision of SafeDig information, we're also cognizant of the fact that that information should be used normally within 30 days, and that type of site excavation or excavation in highway is something that we've thought about when setting the current boundaries. But as with anything, we are happily able to take feedback on whether that area needs to be expanded, or if there are other methods by which you would like to serve. SafeDig is not the only system by which you can gain access to Northern Power Grid's records information, and again I'll cover that off in terms of any Q&As. We do give you this facility to determine the type of output preference, A3, A4 pages, landscape format. So when you are pulling together, say, planning work packs, then again making those, if you are printing work packs out to be used in the field, then from that perspective you can tailor your own requirements to meet what your business purposes actually are. And again, just making sure that you understand what is going to be submitted to yourself in that PDF format when the information is extracted. We ask you to confirm the details. Again, the scheme reference, we just make sure that everything is in there that you need it to be. So we are trying to make sure that your self-service experience is as easy as possible. You get the information that you are seeking, and certainly all of the information that is submitted to yourself can be readily extracted and included in any planning purposes that you may be using it for. You do get confirmation when the request has been completed from our system. Again, that creates a unique reference within our system so that you can obviously track those applications that you've made. And again, also from our perspective, if you have any query, the unique reference that is delivered from that, then from our perspective, once we are provided with that, then we can find out if there has been any issue with when that has been provided. You then get the facility to digress onto other services that we do actually have. With the system being automated, the idea that we built in is that we send you details when the plan's been downloaded into your account. We provide additional information if the system cannot automatically self-serve, because we may be going through some records update internally, and therefore we know there is some work ongoing. And from that perspective, we may include additional checks and put that additional information download that into your account. We do store the plans, and they can be regenerated and updated if requested again. So the system has been built to hopefully be quite intuitive, to make sure that we do allow that to occur again. One of the key things, what I showed at the start, was the outputs that you would achieve. We brought that up to what we class as up to date as what other utilities providers and market leaders out there. So we provided on a single plan with obviously we provide legend associated with the details so you can identify our service cables, low voltage cables, high voltage cables, so the assets that we have in that area. And I say we provide all of the details that you've inputted down on the right hand side, so that again, in terms of when you're sending that information out into the field, it's dated, it's obviously the operators know that they are working in the same area. One of the key things that we are seeking to do is we launched this in April of this year. We've already had anecdotal feedback from a number of users, which we invited in as early as 2018, Q4 2018. We tried to build in some of those improvements when we first launched phase 1 of the system. But the idea is that we obviously now, having run the system, ensured that the stability, the operating performance and the user experience, we're now looking to take that on to further enhancements. And as I say, it's important, hence the purpose of today's webinar, is to seek that feedback, answer any questions, and look to see how we can further, as I say, satisfy the needs of our stakeholders. One of the key things that we have, as I mentioned, is the planned improvements and timescales. And with that, I'll introduce Dan just to say a few words.
Yeah, so good afternoon. As Derek says, I've been involved with this thing from the very beginning, when it was just an idea, seen it right through to delivery, which has been quite a journey. So got quite a bit of insight, hopefully. So as Derek says, we went live in April. We've had a bit of feedback. So the improvements we're sort of looking to implement are it's a sort of improvement in the wait time that people have. So this application is it's a request-based process. So you after you, as Derek's already shown you, you draw the area you want and you submit that, and that goes into a queue. Now this thing was a bit more popular than we perhaps anticipated, so the wait time, people have commented on the wait time, so we've got a second server being built. So we're trying to double that capacity to bring those wait times down, as well as within the application itself, giving people a bit more awareness of how long they may be waiting for. So there'll be some extra notifications in the application, a bit like a queuing system when you phone a contact center maybe and you find out where you are in the queue, that sort of thing. So hopefully that will make people a bit better able to plan their workload in terms of, if they know, for instance, at the middle of the day it's going to take them a bit longer to get a plan, they can maybe tackle things at different times. So that's what's in the pipeline. I guess is it about now we move on to questions? Is that a good time?
I'll certainly pick up on a couple of things. As Dan's indicated, we've listened to this initial feedback. One of the key things has been the turnaround time. We are now indicating, how long it will be on average before you actually get the plans downloaded into your account. With the introduction of the second server, that time will reduce. But we will cover off other ways in terms of self-serving and getting access to our information, which to all intents and purposes gives a number of options for, say, those major users of this system. But the immediate contact point for any current system requirements and queries, as we put on the screen there, are through Ian Foster, copied in, but through that SafeDig system email address, and we obviously have staff operating to pick up calls for any queries. There are some further levels of engagement with Northern Power Grid. We have an independent connections provider seminar in November, a customer connections forum for those of you on the line who operate in those two worlds. Then effectively we do have separate events because they are two separate markets that we deal with, but both of those groups of customers could potentially require SafeDig access. So we'll be showcasing some of this information, updated systems at those events. We do have a stakeholder summit. Again, we like to report back on a wide-ranging area of developments and ongoing stakeholder engagements and feedback from this particular topic. It will be obviously reported on that. We do have an electric vehicle webinar. It's another key area. And again, when obviously you are seeking to place new EV charge points, getting access to our records and where the most suitable points of connection may be, this is one system that potentially may be in your minds about using, but we will cover off some other areas where that information may be able to be extracted from. And we do hold connection surgeries on a monthly basis. It is important that we have a wide range of commercial engineers, design engineers that look at connections onto the Northern Power Grid network, from a low voltage perspective all the way up to an extra high voltage in 132 kV, 132,000 volt connections onto our network. So again, you can go on our website, select a slot, and obviously the appropriate colleagues within Northern Power Grid will attend that meeting and have those discussions with you. So the links are there, and certainly what I would ask you to do is also get the industry updates and register for that, because there is a lot of things going on. It's an ever-changing industry that we operate in, and I say SafeDig is just one of the areas that we are trying to keep our stakeholders abreast of. Moving on to a final couple of questions, and again seeking to pour from yourselves. The first one is, we just need to understand from today's webinar, if we've informed you about, are you more informed about our SafeDig system and its benefits? As I say, the benefits are that it is online. It does provide you data direct into your account. It does give you an indication of when you'll be provided with that information. I've tried to outline the size and scalability by which you can get that automated service from ourselves. But it's important that we do take feedback, so we obviously, picking that up. But if you could answer that first poll question, we'll give you 20 seconds, please. Thank you. And the final question before we move on to the Q&A aspect is, what else could we be doing to engage with you on this topic? Again, you will see that you can type in an open bar, and that will allow us to take all of that feedback and seek to understand and consider those suggestions from yourselves, and ultimately, if there is I think a business requirement that will meet a large group of customers' needs, then we can start to include that into our plan. So if you can type in what other areas you think we could be doing to engage with you on this topic, please. So, with that, as I say, I've just covered off a number of slides, which has taken approximately 20 minutes. Tried to give an indication of where we've went with the system, how we've delivered the system, and it's quite pleasing because in advance of the session occurring today, we're able to open up with a couple of questions that had already come in, which we think are relevant to ourselves. So, with that, as I say, depend upon how we move through the other questions, but the first couple will be answered by Dan, and then we will track through any other questions that we may have. So with that, Dan, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, right, I'll do my best. So we've actually had a couple of questions before we started today. So we've had one from Owen. So the question was, will the new SafeDig plans be replacing the old copies on the portal? Short answer is yes. We did turn off the old access earlier this year. So nice, easy answer to that one. And in terms of a date, it's the question was, what date can we expect to start downloading them? And short answer is right now. So hopefully that's a straightforward answer to that one. The other one we had before we started today was from Shay. It's a question relating to this application and the way that it focuses you on specific areas, whereas the previous offers did allow you to sort of scan around and see a wider sort of coverage. As part of this, it's not SafeDig isn't the only project we've had running. So what we've got is a portfolio in a way. So SafeDig forms part of that portfolio, and again, that is a sort of request-based system for specific areas. It gives you a formatted letter and plans, etc. So what we also have is primarily for design purposes, planning maybe. We have a system which gives you access to the same GIS package that our internal staff use. People can ask to be allowed onto that system, and we'll assess that on a case-by-case basis. And let's see, mine's gone blank.
The full data set.
That's right, yes, yeah. The other thing we can do, again, this is on a case-by-case basis, is actually talk to your GIS guys, data guys, internal IT providers, etc., and look at providing you with a set of data you could possibly use within your own mapping systems. So as hopefully between those three things we can meet everyone's requirements. I think that's kind of a long answer to a question, but yeah, I think that answers the question. So
yeah. So we'll jump into, as I say, a section of the questions. I think Haley asked something along the similar lines about, can we now access MPG service records instantaneously? I think you've just answered that in a way, Dan, about we could open up discussions with that stakeholder to make sure that from our perspective, SafeDig provides you with a snapshot in time. It as I say, then goes into queue. Dan's explained provision of information either through that data set would allow you to that instantaneous access. That's a little bit to how the old record system used to work, so the GIS system and Northeast download. So again, we can open up that discussion. You go through a proper registration system so that we understand who is gaining access to our records and the purposes that they're using it for. You understand we need to, so those protocols are just the same as what we've historically had anyway. The questions come in from Michael about getting cross sections, showing the depths and what the cables are in ducts, etc. Again, our records over the years the records will be what they are. Certainly we do have historically recorded our assets at the time when they were installed, so we would, if we took a depth measurement and if we recognise that it was installed in ducting, then if it was recorded on our asset records, then when we've done the data migration, those asset records have been migrated across. So the cross sections, if there are any that are associated with that particular cable section, would be provided when you actually submit your SafeDig request. So if that information is available, then that would come through the SafeDig system. We've got another question coming in that there isn't a name with it, but obviously they're asking about if you're using the information for a pre-development inquiry, should you estimate the date of works. We can take that as feedback because we do understand that third parties may just be looking to see what our data and information is like, what assets exist in a specific area. So I think again, when we are looking to tweak what we would call those questions as you go through those SafeDig requests, if we think that depending upon the type of user you are, by what you select, then it may be that's an area we can consider that not. You can just put a bogus estimated date in to all intents purposes, but I think if that's a common area where there needs to be some flexibility, we can take that forward and have a look at it. We've got a question from Caroline. Will we be able to have complete access for your asset plans for other utilities? We're able to log onto their system, view the asset plans directly. Again, I think we've covered that off. There are a variety of different methods by which you can gain access to, and certainly the second option, which Dan touched on, which is the same as what effectively my entire design team get access to, and a large majority of the Northern Power Grid staff who require access to records, is we've created an independent connections provider, independent distribution network operator interface. So we've set that interface up because that, as I say, gives access to our new iSmart system, which again, we, within my design function, only completed that full access toward the back end of summer this year. So there is an ability for, if you operate within that environment, to go in and do that. And again, that contains what we call an asset information window, and that provides further details on for those third parties out there that may be looking to use that information for design purposes. We do actually have a license obligation called a license condition 52, which obligates us to provide that, same access to our systems to ICPs and IDNOs, which is why we've developed that system and why I say you are seeing exactly the same as what we've seen. So that is something that I think we can move forward on. As Dan says, again, just a reminder, we need to actually get you registered in that. We've got another question from Martin about, is there faster route available to access the maps in emergency situations? Again, we've had an awful lot of dialogue, and I've certainly engaged at a senior level with a number of major utilities in the last 6 to 9 months about that particular question. So for all SafeDig is built primarily as a planning tool, and therefore you would submit a request, and normally, those records, if they're self-served automatically through the system, you will have them generally on the same day, can fluctuate between a few minutes and obviously a number of hours. Then from that perspective, we understand emergency scenarios. Now, during normal working hours, we do have, as I said, staff available, but again, the provision of information through those other sources may facilitate that. So I think we're certainly trying to, from our perspective, make sure that we don't hinder any of your processes, but you build your processes to facilitate being able to provide that information. With that, Dan, do you want to pick up a couple of questions?
I'll give you a break. Yes, certainly, yes. So I'll go from the top. So we've got a question from Julie about using the application. It's just asking if there's a way to clear the jobs on the progress list if they're no longer needed. I believe there should be. I certainly remember there being one. I will have a look later, and if it's not working, I'll try and get it sorted out. So that one. Done. So we've got a question from Andrew asking if there's an option to record incorrect data. There isn't. I remember talking about this in the early days of the application. We didn't go ahead with it. We'll certainly stick it on a list of things to think about. I say we've got the developer working on the application now, so if they end up with some spare time, it might be worth looking at. There's another one there about how we converted the old asset data into a digital format. Short answer. It's part of a larger project to bring our historically we have two operating areas with data held in two different ways. And the reason we've been able to do this SafeDig project is because of this other larger project, which had all this stuff manually converted for the most part into this new digital format. So the short answer to that question, Andrew, is manual digitization. Right, so I've got two more. I've got one from Daniel. Asset plans we've used previously indicated the location of cables, but not size. Will the new plan show the size of cables as well? For SafeDig, it's probably not. We indicate the voltage levels, which should be enough for SafeDig purposes. But say if you have a requirement that means you need that, then possibly we could explore one of these other products we offer in a sense. So I think that draws a line under that one. Let's have a look. We've got a question from Jordan. Is there any scope to increase the window in our drawer area? It's a question of usability, I suppose. I know personally using it on a laptop screen, it's probably about as big as you want it to be. So, yeah, I think, yeah, we'll have a look. But we've got to cater for lots of different people. You can, if you wish, you can use this on a tablet. It's not brilliantly ideal, but yeah, we've got to think about all users. So. Yeah,
and I think on that particular point, Dan, certainly where we've tried to pitch the current size and scalability is that as about 2.5 kilometres in length of highway and about 150-200 metres wide. We can scale it up further. I think we just need to understand the volumes of those requests, and as with anything, if you make a significant area grab, then the system itself will try to grab an awful lot of data. And what we are wary of is, say, lots of people who possibly inadvertently may grab an area the size of Bradford or size of Newcastle, and then the system goes away to try and pull all of that information through. So we're trying to get it whereby it satisfies the mass of our users for most of the general day-to-day requirements. And if there are larger planning or requirements that you may need, then as Dan and I have outlined, there are other options in terms of getting hold of data which may facilitate something which meets your business requirements. But again, offline we can have those discussions with you, and certainly one of the key things that has come through more recent discussions is the engagement with your IT functions, so that we can give a data set through, because a lot of the time you may well be looking for those larger planning projects and getting hold of that data set and then manipulating it to how you require it, I think, is sometimes an easier option, as opposed to, I think, trying to submit 20, 30, 40 application requests and waiting for them all to come through into your email box. So we will definitely have a look at that. If questions come in from Shay, I think this covers the last remaining question from today's session, is how to apply for access to the GIS system. Then again, there is obviously you can register. The slide deck will be available, so you can make that application. You can go and register. We ask for normal things. We send a confirmation email back. You get registered. You put some details in, and dare I say it, I think it is as simple as that. There is nothing more difficult than obviously making sure that you go through that registration protocols, and then you get into operating with SafeDig. As I say, we do something similar when it comes to our ICP ID and access route. We just need to validate the user that they have a legitimate requirement through that. That would normally go through. We have a dedicated competition and connections team led by Drew Johnston. So again, in terms of the operators that sit in the area, that will go through that. But from a process perspective, it is exactly the same. We can get those users set up. And the last one, when you need the big data, then that comes through our information management business unit. As I say, that's where Ian Foster works, and it's led by a gentleman called Brian Walton. You would make the request. We can obviously, again, validate the requirements, and we can have discussions with the IT department. So we think we are, I think, clear enough about keeping it simple to register. We just need to do those checks and balances as to the requirements for that. So from our perspective, hopefully you found today's session informative. The slide deck, as I say, will be publicly available so that you can run through that. There are various contact points within the slide deck. As I say, the primary one in terms of SafeDig is Ian Foster, but I say I've been the senior manager who's overseen the delivery of this. I'm overseeing the ICP IDNO access interface requirements. So we're trying to make sure that we meet our stakeholders' requirements, but that would be the first touch point. It is important you give us feedback on today's event as well. We obviously do look to take those things on board, and certainly the information that we've got from the poll, and certainly the last question about what other things we can do to increase certainly your satisfaction level about engaging on this particular topic. We will take those elements away and make due consideration of them. But with that, hopefully you've enjoyed today's session. I've certainly enjoyed relaying that to 100 plus subscribers today. It certainly shows that it's an important subject to yourselves, and I thank Dan for obviously answering the questions, and our host down the line. So with that, I wish you all a good afternoon, and I will speak to you all later. Thank you very much.